Hey folks, thank you very much for tuning in to the W.I.N.E, W-I-N-E, which stands for West Indian Network Experience, on our season 12 season. You know, there are those who lead from the front and those who build the systems that make leadership possible. But from a young boy in St. Vincent to the inner workings of the 1199 SEIU, United Healthcare Workers East, he became something rare, a technocrat, a fixer. I'm Ozzie Stewart. I'm very grateful that you've tuned in to this season 12. Could you believe it? Giving flowers, as I normally do, to deserving impactors. So, especially within the Caribbean diaspora. And on this new W.I.N.E segment, W.I.N.E again stands for West Indian Network Experience. I'm shining light on Mr. Allan Sherman, who advocates for the working class.
Every story leaves a mark. Every voice builds a movement. Now, the spirit of On the Call with Ozzie can travel with you, worn, shared, and supported across the world. Visit us for more merch on thecallpodcast.com/store. Check it out. Thank you.
Please like, follow, share, drop a comment. Check out our membership page for the after show ITC Inside the Call for a more personal view of Mr. Sherman. Mr. Allan Sherman is a Vincentian-born labor strategist, educator, and quiet architect within the 1199 SEIU, United Healthcare Workers East, whose work has consistently focused on building systems that allow people, particularly Caribbean and immigrant workers, to move forward with dignity, access, and opportunity. His early life in St. Vincent and the Grenadines laid the foundation for a disciplined, community-centered worldview. As a young student, Sherman moved within circles that would later produce national and regional leaders, including Arnim Eustace and John Horn. You guys need to check those names out. Relationships that started or began as early as their school and church years. These early environments, education, faith, and structure, quietly introduced him to ideas of order, responsibility, and collective organization. Professionally, Sherman's path developed across agriculture, communications, education, and administration, including his early work as a primary school teacher in St. Vincent, where he taught across multiple subjects. This grounding in education would later inform his lifelong commitment to training, access, and advancement for others. His migration to the United States marked a transition into labor and institutional systems, where he began his work with 1199 in 1983. Is that correct? Wonderful. At a time when he was notably the only Vincentian in the Union. And over time, he also gained experience across related labor environments, including work connected to the restaurant union and the UN worker representation, where he witnessed firsthand the intensity and discipline of organized labor, marked by sustained picketing, resilience, and collective action. Now, within 1199 SEIU, Sherman's role was not that of a public-facing agitator, but rather a strategic insider, a technocrat, and a fixer who understood how to navigate systems, policies, and structure to produce real outcomes. His work focused on supporting the development and accessibility of benefit and pension structures, contributing to training and upgrading pathways for workers seeking advancement. Also helping workers, particularly, again, as I said before, Caribbean immigrants, understand, access, and move within the system. Serving as a bridge between leadership and membership, ensuring that institutional decisions reflected live or lived realities. Beyond formal union roles, Sherman played an influential part in the Vincentian diaspora in New York, particularly in Brooklyn. He contributed to organizing efforts that connected community members to resources, institutions, and one another, often through town halls, associations, and informal networks that functioned as support systems for new arrivals. He's also recognized for his involvement in membership education and professional development, helping individuals translate their skills and experience into upward mobility within the U.S. workforce. Colleagues and community members consistently describe Sherman as a dignified professional who leads without spectacle, a fixer who understands how to move things forward behind the scenes, a mentor who demystifies complex systems, and a steady presence during periods of transition and change. His legacy is not defined by visibility, but by infrastructure, the systems, the pathways, and the people who advanced because he helped make movement possible. Allan Sherman. Now we're going to get into some questions. Now that you know him. You've been described as a technocrat and a fixer. How do you define those roles in your own words?
I guess as a fixer, I was involved in correcting and improving the livelihood of workers. And as a technocrat, even though I'm not too comfortable with that word, I have an idea of what they mean. I guess from my interpretation and from how people speak, because they don't always speak what it is, as I guess if you went to a university and you have a degree or something, they could label you a technocrat.
But it also deals with, well, that is your interpretation, but I think that...
But I'm also trying to relate to how my folks would relate to it.
Right, right. You entered 1199 SEIU at a time when you were the only Vincentian. What did that responsibility feel like?
None. I never thought of it.
Oh. Sure. You've worked both around militant organizing and inside institutional systems. What's the balance between the two?
I don't know if I will answer this like you might need the answer, but militant organizing is one of the areas in which we organize workers into the labor union. And the militancy sometimes come around when you have difficult employers and then you have to take drastic actions leading to strikes, leading to people losing their jobs, leading to folks getting hurt, because sometimes that militancy took you on the picket line for a very long time. And that is when you're on the picket line, it's all bread and butter issues, because you're not getting any wages and you're without a paycheck. Yeah, and that is where the rubber meets the road, where you know these people want a union. Because you could easily say, I'm giving up, but they stay until the end. And that is a very, very, very strong position to take. Does it work?
What makes a labor system really actually work?
Unity of the membership, leadership involving the members, because there's leadership without members' involvement, and that is not real leadership. So you have to have unity. You have to have leadership. You have to have strength. And those things lead to power. And power is what really makes us the force to be reckoned with. Because you have numerical power, you have financial power, you have political power. Those three, when you combine them, gives you union power. So the numerical is the numbers, like 1199, with its 450,000 members. It's financial power, which comes from these 450,000 workers, and political power, because politics is the key to our existence. And we need political power to help us in our everyday activities, because with the public service workers, like the healthcare workers, the money to pay them that we negotiate for them comes from the state. So it's so important, crucial, that we have the support of the politicians in Albany. And that's why we go to Albany several times a year to campaign against them, to lobby them. We had a event just last week, I think, or week before, where several thousand of our members went to Albany, and the governor addressed them, telling them she'll work with them, and to get what they want. And so the political power is very, very. So we are there. We go out. We campaign for all these politicians who we believe will support us and do the right thing by
That's the
us.
exchange. You work personally with the workers. How do you actually help them move from simply having a job to building a career?
Well, for starters, we need to have an orientation with these workers as soon as they get into the union, to explain to them what is a union, because a lot of people don't know what a union is. I remember my mother back home, who was anti-union, because that was her growing up. It was said that unions only want, they like to strike. They like to strike for more money, not understanding that is what they want to live. So they were anti-union. So she was never in favor of me getting involved with the union. But we have to educate our members on a constant basis. Not today and forget them tomorrow. It's a continuous education. What is a union? What you can bring to this union to help the union grow, because growth is very important in the union, to get that numerical power. We can't be satisfied with a few members, and that is why we have in shops what we call residual organizing. So we have members in some classifications who organize, but then there are others who are not organized. So to grow us, we organize those non-union workers.
But how do you move them as they come in? Let's say I come in, because from researching and seeing the how you support, this union supports their members. You kind of wish almost that you could be a member yourself, But how do you move that member from coming in to as a beginner and then shift them to, that career situation?
Again, it goes back to constant education.
Okay.
It has to be. And one of our weaknesses is that we organize workers, we get them a contract, and we forget them. Fortunately, that is not 1199
issue.
In some instances, it is. But we have to be constantly working with them, talking to them. Because one of our weaknesses is that we talk about workers, but we don't talk to workers. And we have these issues where, as I repeat myself, where we don't talk to the members. Constant meetings, you know.
I think I know when I first met you this past Christmas, and I saw the people stay and listen to your address, and the respect and the love that they had for you, and it comes from that consistency of, I guess, being in touch with them. Correct? Do you see?
And there's nothing greater than that. You take it home with you.
Right.
You live it.
Right.
And it's a joy. It's a joy to see, as you said, how do these people grow?
Yeah.
Because we organize them into the union, and we can't leave them alone. We can't leave them alone.
What role did the Caribbean diaspora play in shaping labor strength in New York?
I don't know if I can answer that question correctly, because I guess it's from all the Caribbean people who got involved in different unions, because some people, the truth is be told, think the 1199 is the only union.
Right.
1199 is not the only union. Far from it. And we need to grow the other unions too and work with it as a coalition with them. You have the civil service workers, you have the restaurant workers, and you have so many other types of unions. But it's for us to all work together. And in all these unions, you have a lot of Caribbean people. And not only Caribbean people, but a lot of people from South America, you know, Africa, all over.
If a young Caribbean professional is listening right now, trying to find their place in a new country, what would you tell them that no one told you?
This might not be the answer, but one of the things we have learned from growing up is having conversations with your peers. You could form associations, you could form groupings, but whatever we do, we need to talk to one another. We need to exchange ideas, and we need to be the person who will express themselves as they see it, as they feel it, without fear of anyone, you know. But we have to talk to one another. And we don't necessarily have to agree.
Right.
We don't necessarily have to agree.
What is the power of quiet leadership? Quiet. Yeah, the feeling that I get about, the reason I'm saying that is that, again, being in the room when I met you, and then researching, there is a feeling that I get of you that is, you may not be the loudest voice in the room, but you get things done. So what has been the power of that quiet leadership?
Building your members, letting them know that the power of the organization rests with them. That is where the power comes from. Not from the president of the union, not from the secretary treasurer or the vice president. It's you, that individual who goes to work every day, toiling, who has the power. But you only have the power if you come together. If we come together to stand up to that man who is called the boss, stand up to him and said, you know, we had enough. And by us being together, and the boss knows that, the boss sees us and he knows we have the power of confronting him, he takes a backseat. Now, if we have a weak organization, that is, we have no power. The boss knows that. And you hear some members say, they're in love with the boss for whatever reason. Because we had a union where the boss helped the members to pay their mortgage, to pay their rent. These workers had no power. Right. They were beholden to that boss for everything. So he did what he wanted to do, when he wanted to do it, how he wanted to do it, because he knows they're coming hat in hand to get handouts from him.
But in getting the message to them, your voice is in the background, leading them quietly. How do you do that?
Well, it depends on how quietly is defined. Because, let me see. I think I'll go back again to building the organization, building the membership, letting them know that they have someone who is there with them day in and day out to confront the boss, that they're not alone. But it's not the loudest voice that because we have a lot of people who are excellent talkers, but there's no result.
Right.
And you could be quiet, but quiet in a sense that empowers the worker. Empowerment, work empowerment is so important.
What is a childhood memory that still lives in you today? Something that quietly influenced you to be the man that you've become?
Oh, well, I don't know if this, well, I'll say it. At 13 years of age, I became what is called in the Anglican Church an altar boy or a server. And I was, of course, 13. I didn't know what was going on in life. But I guess I wanted something to do, and I joined it. And then one day, a notice went out that they wanted to have a meeting of all the servers, of all the altar boys. And having nothing to do, I said, let me go to this meeting. And the meeting was led by some very strong young men. They were 17, 18. John Horn was one of them. And we had a very tough and ruthless guy by the name of Duff James, who later became a politician. And this meeting was about the schedule for the upcoming Pontifical High Mass. In the Anglican Church, a Pontifical High Mass is a mass where the bishop and all the priests attend. And it's the highlight, one of the highlights of the church. And this pontifical high mass was for Christmas Eve night. That is when everybody come out. And when they looked at the schedule, the MC, Master of Ceremonies, was a new kid. He was about a year older than me or something like that. And it never happened like that. The MC was always the most senior person. But here's this kid just coming on board, and they made him the MC. So that was the purpose of the meeting. How can this happen? What is going on? Blah, blah, blah. So they took a decision that on that night, rather than serving on the altar, putting on their cassocks and go on the altar, they would sit in the congregation. So to me, what registered with me was seniority. I didn't know nothing about seniority, but to me it sounded like that. The most senior people left out and the most junior person there. But the reason for the most junior person is that one of the priests liked him. So that's why he put him there. So we sat in the congregation and it was chaos because a handful of the servers turned out and the vast majority of us were in the congregation. And the congregation, later on, they went against us because they questioned how could we do this to the priests, who were all from England. How can we do this to the priests? And it was not right. And then some things happened when I got involved in the labor movement, realized this happened way back when, and it was a union where the most senior altar boys went to the priests to ask to be taken back because they'd gotten rid of them. They got rid of all the senior altar boys. And when I got in the union and said, this is what happened, this is what the boss does. He gets rid of the senior workers, right? Gets rid of the non-union workers. And that thing stayed with me. So this seniority issue at that age galvanized me, and I like the action of not putting on your cassock to go and sit in the Congress. I say, that will send them a message. And that is where I think it all started.
What labor movement, we put it as labor movement, did you help build that that's still impacting lives today in your?
Well, I'm afraid I don't know much about it because I'm not following it.
Right.
But it was the Commercial, Technical, and Allied Workers Union. And I think it's still around. And that is a union that was founded by W.I.N.E. And they represented a cross-section of workers. It's not, they represent all classifications of workers. And we were the biggest union there. And we represented from the sugarcane workers to the communication workers, sanitation workers. Name it, we represented them. And we were strong, but we was not as strong as we could be.
Why is that?
Because leadership. Leadership. The president at that time he had some charisma, but he had some very dirty ways about him.
Oops. Okay.
And he could not, it was all about him because he was always hand to mouth. He put himself in that position. So he was not respected by a lot of people. However, he stayed in power for quite a while.
Why is that? Why was that allowed? I mean,
Because the members were not involved.
got it.
The members were not involved.
So he had free reign, pretty much.
Yes.
What mistake? Well, what is missing today in how we prepare workers for the future? What is missing?
A lot of the things I said.
The communication, staying close.
Yes. Organizing workers and then leaving them on their own after they get a contract.
Right.
And I'm speaking unions in general.
Right.
This is not 1199 alone. 1199 has a more rigid thing how they deal with this. But a lot of unions, the important thing is to get and most unions, you do not collect dues from the members until they get a contract.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to get that contract to start getting dues.
That's not 1199.
All unions.
All unions.
Yeah. Because the dues is the lifeblood of the organization.
Right.
No dues, you can't
Right.
you can't live.
Right.
So, and the other thing with 1199, and as it come to mind, I think it's a very democratic union. Very democratic. I don't want to venture and say that it is the most democratic, but I know it's a very democratic union. For example, actions we take on behalf of the organization, on behalf of the membership, it has to go to our executive council. Now, our executive council is comprised of officers and members. Members are key to our executive council. And so you always take a vote in the executive council. And fortunately, a lot of our members don't vote with the president, and so, which is good. And if we're going to take action on a picket or a strike, we have a vote. The members have to vote for that to happen. If we're going to vote for get a contract, the members have to vote.
How does that voting system work?
We go
Because members are all over the place, right? So
we go to their facilities.
okay.
We go where they work.
Okay. Oh.
And then we go on their shifts. So you have 3 shifts, the day shift, the evening shift, and the night shift.
Right.
So we visit them on their shifts, and then we have the vote there.
Wow. Okay.
So that is a very key difference between us and a lot of unions. For example, the Teamsters, it's the officers who vote to accept the contract.
Oh.
So they're not the only ones.
Right.
So the officers vote to accept the contract, and then they go to the members and say this is your contract.
Right.
So that is an outstanding feature of us.
Right.
So we have a tool which is called the life cycle. It's a way of evaluating our delegates, our staff, and ultimately the facilities which they represent. And the life cycle, just as it says, it's compared to the life of an individual. So there are 4 aspects to it. The first one is the infancy stage. In the infancy stage, as we know, as an infant, your parents do everything for you. you can't do anything for yourself. They hold your hand right through it. And that's our delegate, right? So in that stage, they do nothing. Some of them are not trained to I want to say do anything, mean like having meetings, representing the members at grievances, doing labor management meetings, and if these things, they're not equipped to do that.
Right.
Because they either have not been trained or some organizers prefer not to leave them in that stage. Because at one point in time, I remember when I first came on staff, it was a song that never made the top 10 that said, it's best to keep the delegates like this because we cannot get fired. Because they always need us to be with them and do what they do. The second stage is the adolescent stage, where your parents are giving up some of their responsibilities. They're allowing you to do more things on your own. And here, the delegates start learning about how to conduct meetings, how to do grievances. So they're moving up.
Right.
The third stage is the early adulthood stage. And now you are more equipped to do your grievances, to do your labor management meetings, to do your represent the members in general.
Right.
And we, the organizers, have more confidence in you.
Right.
So like the parent now have more confidence in you, early adulthood.
Right.
You know?
What is the length of time between the,
You have to make it. We don't give you a length of time. You have, if you work at it hard, it will take time. Right. But it's not an overnight something.
Right.
It doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
So in the early adulthood stage, your parents, you're still conversing with your parents because you might be talking about weddings, you might be talking about a lot of things that your parents are interested in. And then the last stage is the late adult stage, where you have reached that stage now where you can do grievances. And one of the, can't think of the word now, but one of the things that we want our delegates to do is to do grievances. Grievances where you represent the members in front of the boss. You on your own now. And when you have reached that stage, that is the stage we really want you to get through. So you have learned how to do meetings. You have learned to do different aspects, speaking to the members. Now you come full circle that you can do a grievance.
To be on your own.
To really be on your own. This is you on your own now. So for every aspect, and in some cases, to negotiate contracts. To negotiate. So you move from where your parent
being dependent
to
be independent.
Independent. Right. I like that.
Okay, lovely. Yeah. Coming from St. Vincent, what was the path to getting into the labor movement?
I started working, I was a teacher, and then I started working with Cable and Wireless. Cable and Wireless was a multinational communication company from England, and they were in every Caribbean island and Europe. They were all over. And it's one of the best jobs you could have had. They pay well, you get good benefits and everything. And when I joined Cable and Wireless, there was a union there and I joined the union. So after union has organized the members, anyone coming in after that is automatic sign up to be in the union. You don't have to go through no big hula boo. So I joined the union and I really got involved with it. I was elected a vice president of the union, but I was still with Cable and Wireless because that's only a part-time something.
Right.
So with that, I would be involved with negotiating contracts, doing grievances and all of that, because the staff of the union was about 3 full-time people.
And how many members?
About 1,000 members. But it was a poor union. People wasn't paying dues and they were not giving them the right representation. So it was an exciting something. And the more I got involved, the more, the more it really came home to me and say, this is really what I enjoy doing. And one of the stories I like to tell about that is that where we represented the sugarcane workers in the most northern part of the country. Now these workers were not educated. All they know is you have your cutlass, or you call it cutlass or machete.
Right.
And you go and you cut your cane and you walk with your cutlass everywhere you go. Because that is like a businessman walking with his briefcase. So they will go everywhere with their cutlass. So now, as I said, there was no check-off system. The union representatives had to visit the workers where they work to collect the dues. And with the agricultural workers, why they stand out? Because it was a different dynamic altogether. Because the workers, when they got paid on Fridays, they head straight for the rum shop.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And everybody is going in there with the cutlass, with their briefcase.
Oh, Lord.
Right?
Yes.
And you have to collect the dues, but you also in competition with the children mother, because a lot of them had a lot of kids. So the mothers, because they never live for the parent mothers for, because they have kids all over. So the parent's mother would be there to collect an allowance. We are there to collect the dues, and Mr. Cutlass is in the corner. So you had to get it early, because you had to get it before they got
drunk.
too much in up here.
Because
it's a different ball game.
Right.
And at times it became rough, because just on the side, there was a sugarcane strike. And people were killed, because the workers use their cutlasses to kill people. And it was a violent something. So collecting the dues now, and this, okay, what are you going to tell a worker when they say, I'm here to collect the dues? And they say, and they give you the cuss word and say, if you tell me I don't do this, you ain't going back there.
Right.
So we try to formulate a system where it would not be so dangerous. So we say, let us meet with them on Sundays, right? So we try that. But this is what they take to work.
Right.
So some of them might leave at home, but the majority would still come with it.
On a Sunday.
So it was still confrontational. And at that point in time, I could have said, listen, this is too dangerous. I'm not getting involved with no union activity again, blah, blah, blah. But it was the challenge. it was a challenge. How are you going to overcome this? How are you going to better represent these workers? And so I stayed on with the union. I mean, I had a very good job. I was the accountant at Cable Wireless. I could have stayed there and to hell with the union, but the challenge was there. It was always a fight, always a fight. And you're young and you're energetic and you have everything. And so I stayed there with the union, and then I started going to different courses. I went to the University of the West Indies on several occasions. I went to Georgetown University, all this through the labor movement. And I was really in it now, as at full adulthood.
When you say all through the labor movement, it means that you were on scholarship.
They paid for me.
They paid for you.
Yeah, they
right.
paid. Not my union, because my union had no money.
Right.
So it's the internationals,
Right.
Who paid, who paid for them. And then, when I came back from Georgetown, they hired me to work with the regional Caribbean movement, labor movement, which was called the Caribbean Congress of Labor. And they represented all English-speaking unions in the Caribbean. Every Caribbean island, name it, Bermuda, Bahamas, Jamaica. Barbados was our headquarters. And so that was another challenge, because my job as Director of Research and Education was to negotiate contracts, to help them negotiate contracts. If they have strikes, to help them settle the strikes, and education.
You were able to do that because how did you have the skill to do those things? How did that happen?
Well,
Was that through going to college?
Yes.
So your concentration was in what? In college?
Well, labor studies.
Got it.
Labor studies,
Okay.
and
Got it.
learning how to negotiate
Right,
contracts
okay.
and all.
So then,
They didn't teach you how to settle strikes, but
right.
you had to develop your own ideas and work with the current union leadership there.
Right. So then from Barbados now, what's your trajectory into?
When I went to Cornell,
Uh-huh.
and so that's how I came back here and ended up with it. Well, before I got to 1199, I always wanted to work with a union here after I finished Cornell, but I couldn't get a job with the union. I don't know for what reason. So I got a job in the commodities market at the World Trade Center, which is completely different from labor.
Yeah.
This is capitalism
Right.
at its best.
Right.
And I worked in the copper, gold, and silver market, where that is what we are trading. And that was another experience. I mean, the other thing that we used to call wild ants, some little red ones, and you see them, they all over the place. That was what the trading floor was like, and it was crazy, crazy, crazy. Now, if I had stayed there, I would have retired a long time ago, because the money
Right. Was sweet.
was real good. But it was not me. I wanted to get back into labor. And one of my friends gave a vice president of 1199 my resume, and they called me in for an interview, and Doris Turner hired me. So that's how I started with 1199.
I heard that you traveled to Italy and whatnot.
Yes.
What was the story about
I
that?
went to school in Italy too.
How did that happen and through whom?
One of the internationals, because we also work with, you have the AFL-CIO, which represents American unions. But you also have an organization called the International Confederation of Free Trade Unions. This is based in Brussels, Belgium. And then you have the counter to that, which is the Socialist Union, Communist, if you want to call it, called the World Federation of Trade Unions. So the ICFTU, as a matter of fact, it was they who sent me to Cornell. And working with another international, they sent me to Italy. So I went to school to Italy for a year. So that's all the little bits.
You retired last year, but you're not retired from the union. So what is your involvement now with the union?
Well, as a member asked me some time ago, if I'm still here, I say yes, I'm still here because I have a contract with the members.
Right.
So until that time.
And that means that you're educating, you're doing the same things that you're doing, moving them forward.
Involved as much as I can, especially in the education part of it.
Right. When your story is told, what should never be left out for you?
Getting involved in the labor movement. Because, well, as we know, it started in St. Vincent. And it was not the most popular thing. So for you to venture out, for example, you have what is called, quote unquote, a very good job. That means your income is pretty good. You might have some benefits and so on. But unions were always associated with quote unquote poor people. So nobody wants to sort of quote unquote again mix with the poor people. And so to get involved with them at that stage, I at that point in time, as I said, my mother was against it. And I felt good. I felt I was really doing something. And the fighting part of it, to confront the employers, and you have the workers there with you, it's a very good feeling. So I think my getting involved in the labor movement, I played soccer for St. Vincent, but that doesn't rate with, building a workforce, making the best for our members.
Well, folks, you've heard Mr. Allan Sherman speak about the things that matter to him, which is the educating the workers, being involved with the workers, listening to and connecting with the workers, and moving them forward. Again, you have a labor union that you can join. You can get involved in 1199 SEIU, join. They do great work and they're very supportive, as you could tell, of their workers. So with that, I'm going to say thank you very much for sitting on this part, Mr. Sherman. And to you members, thank you for being here. Like, follow, share, drop a comment, all that wonderful stuff. Cheese, thank you. OTC team, thank you. And come back for the ITC, Inside the Call, next conversation. Only found on the website, only found on the website, only found on the website. Thank you for coming. And remember, when you're on your beat, stay on the sunny side of the street safely. Be health conscious, kind to one another, and don't forget to give thanks for the little and big gifts as we strive through this beautiful life. Get to ITC. See you.